This Week in the NFL, brought to you by Hager Slacks. More men wear Hager dress slacks than any other brand. They just fit better, naturally.
The pro quarterback is the one player every fan knows, the one player every fan watches, the one player every fan honors or demeans, depending upon his performance. It is the highest paying position in the game, and certainly the most critical one. The responsibility for winning rests more on the quarterback than on any other player. A pro quarterback lives in a world of pressure. It is part of him every minute of the game. He feels it all the time. He can't afford to relax. How well the quarterback reacts to this pressure will often determine the outcome of the game. In This Week in the NFL, several quarterbacks responded to the challenge of their position, and for them there was victory. But for others unable to cope with the pressure, there was only despair. One quarterback who met the challenge was veteran John Brody, number 12 of the San Francisco 49ers. After some uncomfortable moments against the Atlanta Falcons in the first half, Brody regrouped his team and led them to their second victory of the year. In New York, Fran Tarkenton also survived some early rough going, but you'll see later in the show how he guided the Giants to their third triumph. Another quarterback who conquered adversity was the Los Angeles Rams' Roman Gabriel. Gabriel proved his increasing maturity as a passer by continually waiting until the last possible moment to release his throws. Gabriel completed 17 of them and led the undefeated Rams to a 24-6 decision over the Cleveland Browns. But for others, the pressure proved to be overpowering. Bart Starr of Green Bay suffered 3 interceptions, and the Packers suffered their second straight defeat at the hands of the Detroit Lions. In Philadelphia, reserve Eagle quarterback King Hill could have passed his helmet better than the ball. 5 of Hill's passes ended up in the hands of Dallas Cowboys, and almost all of the interceptions led directly to Cowboy scores. In a hilarious clutter of mistakes and wasted energy, the winless Eagles fell to the undefeated Cowboys 45-13. Sonny Jurgensen of the Washington Redskins completed 29 passes, but unfortunately 3 of them were completed to the New York Giants. Spider Lockhart, number 43, grabbed this one and romped through the Redskins for a 47-yard touchdown return that highlighted a smashing Giant victory. Two Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks, Kent Nix, number 10, and his replacement, Dick Shiner, spent a long and sickening afternoon with the Baltimore Colts. The alert Baltimore defense turned the Steeler passing game into a nightmare by returning 3 interceptions for touchdowns. Cornerback Bobby Boyd, number 40, cornerback Charlie Stoops, number 47, and tackle Roy Hilton, number 85, appearing in that order, all scored for Baltimore. The interceptions can be attributed to a tremendous rush put on by the Colt line. Bubba Smith, number 78 in particular. Nix was almost buried alive under the repeated attacks of the angry Baltimore front 4. The Steelers managed only 7 points, while the Colts rolled up 41 and remained unbeaten. In Minnesota, the Vikings and the Chicago Bears devoted the entire game to open assault and battery on both quarterbacks. Alan Page, number 88, hit Chicago quarterback Rudy Bukic with such impact that Bukic was forced to leave the game. Joe Kapp, the quarterback of the Vikings, was smacked by everybody but Bear owner George Halas. The Bear defense, so disenchanting for the past 2 weeks, suddenly turned Tiger for Minnesota and spearheaded a violent conquest of the previously undefeated Vikings. But perhaps the most frightening spectacle to confront any quarterback last Sunday befell Frank Ryan of the Cleveland Browns, who was eyeball to eyeball with the Rams' fearsome foursome. Lamar Lundy and David Jones occupy the end positions. The tackles are Roger Brown, who crushes the scales at 300 pounds, and Merlin Olsen, number 74, a one-man wall from Utah State. The foursome wrapped Ryan in a variety of carefully planned defenses. Time and again, under their constant pressure, the Cleveland quarterback overthrew, underthrew, or didn't throw. The Rams' defense dominated Cleveland in every way and put the Browns deep in a hole they could never climb out of. In spite of the rough treatment given many of the league's quarterbacks, there were enough survivors to bring about some surprising results on the scoreboard. The Bears, with their 0-2 record, were ready for the Vikings with their 2-0 record. And for the second consecutive week, somebody was ready for the world champion Green Bay Packers. As expected, the Packers took immediate control of the game with a 63-yard touchdown pass from Bart Starr to Carroll Dale. This, coupled with a 38-yard field goal, gave Green Bay a 10-0 lead. Unexpected was Lim Barney's upending of Donnie Anderson to thwart the Packer drive at the Detroit 8. And his interception moments later of a Bart Starr pass to set up the first Lion touchdown. The touchdown came with seconds remaining in the half when Bill Munson found Billy Gambrell in the end zone to cut the Packer lead to 3 points. In the third quarter, the Lions' defense allowed the Packers only 8 plays from scrimmage, while the offense forged a slim 17-10 advantage. Undismayed, Starr went back to the well and dipped a 35-yard strike, again to Carroll Dale to tie the game at 17. Refusing to fold under pressure, quarterback Munson capped a ball-controlled 71-yard drive with another touchdown pass to Gambrell. Deservedly so, it was the aroused Lion defense that applied the coup de grace as Dick LeBeau made his second interception to preserve the Lions' well-earned 23-17 victory. In Minnesota, the unbeaten Vikings, led by the rushing of Bill Brown, started in to roll as they had the 2 previous weeks. But a fumble in Chicago territory forestalled a score, and Gale Sayers and the Bears came charging back. A desperation tackle by Paul Krause saved the touchdown, but only until the next play. This time, Sayers made sure. An interception in Chicago territory stopped the Vikings again, and again the Bears capitalized. This time on a Jack Concannon screen pass to Ralph Couric for 23 yards. Then a pass to Dick Gordon for 15 more and a 2-touchdown first quarter lead. Bill Brown fought back, but once more the Viking attack was stopped by the Bears. In the second quarter, Bob Wietuska's block sprung Ralph Couric into Viking territory, where a long field goal by Mac Percival put the again ferocious Bears ahead by 17-0. The running of Clint Jones brought the Vikings close enough for a Fred Cox field goal, but another Chicago field goal just before the half gave the Bears a 20-3 halftime lead. After a scoreless third quarter, Bill Brown again carried the Vikings into Bear territory. Brown, leading the league in scoring after an off year, gained 109 yards in only 12 attempts. Gary Quazzo, who relieved Joe Kapp in the fourth quarter, then led the Vikings to 2 quick touchdowns, one of them on a pass to Gene Washington for 23 yards. The Vikings were down by only 3 with 7.5 minutes remaining. But the Bears killed 7 of those minutes, driving 80 yards for the game's final score. Ralph Couric's 23-yard bolt wrapped up the Bears' first win, a tough 27-17 victory over the first-place Vikings. It was John Brodie Day in San Francisco. On the 49ers' first series, Brodie shot the ball to flanker Clifton McNeil, who held on at the goal line for the game's first score. In the second period, after an Atlanta field goal, Gary Lewis took advantage of the Falcons' outside pass rush on a 22-yard draw play. Brodie followed with a sidearm toss to Lewis for a 14-3 San Francisco lead, with only 1:18 left in the first half. Randy Johnson, fighting the clock as well as the 49ers, could not resist the expanse of green grass before him. With only 14 seconds remaining, Johnson lobbed to ex-Packer flanker Bob Long, who made an acrobatic reception, bringing the Falcons into the dressing room only 4 points behind at 14-10. But a third quarter pass to tight end John David Crow put Brodie and the 49ers beyond the reach of the young Falcons. Brodie connected on 17 of his 20 passing attempts for 85%. This went into the books as the finest single-game percentage in 49er history and the second best in NFL history. More important to the 49ers, it meant their second victory of the young season, 28-13. The Saints scored early and often against the Cardinals, but couldn't score in the end when it really counted the most. Split-end Dan Abramowitz gave New Orleans a 10-0 first-half lead when he sprinted past rookie Bob Atkins, who had slipped, and ran under quarterback Billy Kilmer's perfect pass. The Cardinals replaced last year's sensation, Jim Hart, with Charlie Johnson at quarterback. Hart's difficulty had been panicking under pressure and throwing interceptions. Unfortunately for Johnson, he never even got a chance to throw the ball during the first 3 quarters. Kilmer and Abramowitz again combined for their second touchdown. After hitting tight end John Hester, number 84, down the middle, Kilmer threw a quick post to Abramowitz to give New Orleans a comfortable 17-0 lead after 3 periods. Verging on a complete collapse, the Cardinals jolted the Saints when Chuck Lotterette returned a punt 86 yards for a touchdown that narrowed the lead to 10 points. With less than 8 minutes left in the game, the Cardinals received a gift when Saints punter Tom McNeil was trapped on his own 10-yard line. Johnson's first touchdown pass of 1968 went to Dave Williams, but St. Louis still had to fight the clock. After a Saints field goal, St. Louis vaulted into the lead for the first time, 21-20, on a 1-yard plunge by Willis Crenshaw. In a Hollywood finish, the Saints traveled 53 yards in just 18 seconds, only to have their attempt at the winning field goal blocked by Cardinal linebacker Ernie Clark. By scoring 21 frantic points in the last quarter, St. Louis eked out their first win of 1968. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, only 4 teams remain unbeaten. The Colts, Cowboys, and Giants put points on the scoreboard in blazing barrages and live by their offenses. But the Los Angeles Rams live by their defense. And last Sunday, their opponents, the Cleveland Browns, died by it. Like most quarterbacks who faced the Los Angeles Rams' awesome rush, Cleveland's Frank Ryan ended up playing the dangerous game of run for your life. At times, Ryan merrily scrambled around in his old-fashioned high-top shoes. But when the game ended, the Browns had managed only 6 first downs. Not once did they initiate a play on the Rams' side of the 50-yard line. The Rams' fearsome foursome pummeled Ryan with abandon, and once he was forced to leave the game to nurse his battered body. The fierce pursuit of number 75, All-Pro defensive end David Jones, nullified Cleveland's sweeps and never allowed dangerous Leroy Kelly to break free. Cleveland's only score was the result of a 56-yard bomb from Ryan to Paul Warfield, which made the score 10-6 at halftime. In the second half, the Ram offense methodically wore down Cleveland's defense. Roman Gabriel began to pick apart the seams in the Browns' porous zone defense by throwing to his tight end, Billy Truax, number 87. Gabriel is finally matured and must be seriously considered a championship quarterback. Though he generals an offense that is not often spectacular, it is one that is consistent. And by the start of the fourth quarter, the Rams decided to put away their 3rd straight victory. By throwing with such a high degree of success, Gabriel set up the runs of setback Dick Bass, number 22, a compact blaster who ran through the Browns for more than 100 yards. The Rams' first score of the last period came on a quick slant in from Gabriel to Bernie Casey, who broke free for a 26-yard touchdown. Follow number 65, Tom Mack, and you follow the Rams to their last touchdown. Tommy Mason swept left end to cap a satisfying Sunday as Los Angeles dispatched the Browns with ease, 24-6. As with so many new shows that come into New York each year, there are those that wither and die. At Yankee Stadium, the Washington Redskins may have died, but the Giants continue to ride the heady crest of a soft early schedule and the right arm of the flamboyant scrambler from Georgia. In this game, the Redskins secondary proved to be a great water fountain where Fran Tarkenton and his receivers could slake their thirsts at will. At one time, the Redskins even led 7-3, but rookie Bobby Duhan's touchdown dive gave New York a lead they never lost. The game also featured the return of Homer Jones. In 2 previous games, Jones had caught only 3 passes, but today he grabbed 6 for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns, the first covering 82 yards. Throughout the game, Tarkenton scrambled around and around, leaving the bedazzled Redskins groping in desperation until his receivers had cleared and the passing lanes were open. Tarkenton himself accounted for a touchdown when he rolled around Washington's right side to give the Giants a commanding 24-7 margin just before halftime. In less than 2 years, Tarkenton has produced the flair, imagination, and excitement that New York fans not only relish, but demand. Sonny Jurgensen moved Washington to the last score before halftime on a flurry of passes to his wide receivers, Jerry Smith, number 87, and Charlie Taylor, number 42. Sonny climaxed the drive with a 2-yard touchdown to Smith that made the score 24-14 at the half. In the second half, New York extended its mastery over the Redskins. Homer Jones caught his 2nd touchdown as the Giants amassed almost 400 yards in total offense and 48 points to thrash Washington. Oddly enough, the Redskins matched New York yard for yard, but could not match them point for point, as 3 fumbles and 3 interceptions cost them at critical periods in the game. Pat Richter's 5th touchdown reception of the year almost made the score respectable, but New York is not a tryout town where close almost counts. Besides, New Yorkers think they have a real hit in the undefeated Giants. This week, NFL quarterbacks were beaten, intercepted, and struck down like bowling pins. But they endured and came back to direct offenses that went on a scoring binge for the 3rd straight Sunday. 4 teams still retain their unblemished record, while 3 others are groping for their first win. The twice-beaten Packers are now met with confidence instead of awe. And if the Century Division finds a champion, it might well be one with a losing record. I'm Pat Summerall.